the number one in the world, I think, is exercise. They're now really calling that the longevity drug and realizing that there's no drug that will actually be able to do for you what exercise does.
Welcome to the Midlife Reinvention Podcast, a podcast helping women in career and life transitions achieve clarity on their next steps so they can transform uncertainty into an energizing next chapter. I'm your host, Kavita Ahuja, and the founder of It's My Time Now Coaching. If you're wondering what's next in your career or life, you are in the right place. Through solo and guest episodes, you'll gain practical tips, tools, and inspiration to help you uncover blocks, gain confidence, and be, do, and have what you want. I rediscovered myself after the age of 50, and I know you can too. It's my time now to help you do just that. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. Welcome to another powerful episode of the Midlife Reinvention Podcast. Have you ever wondered what longevity really means and how you can actually improve your longevity? Many women face the challenges of hormone decline and health changes, but what if you could reverse these effects and feel better than ever now? In this episode, I speak with the amazing wellness entrepreneur, Anissa Buckley, and we dive into actionable strategies for how you can achieve your optimal health and wellness now. In this episode, you'll learn how to counteract the effects of hormone decline with practical lifestyle and supplementation tips. You will learn the importance of preserving muscle mass and how to incorporate effective strength training routines. And you will learn the critical role of emotional and mental health in achieving longevity and how to foster meaningful connections and mental stimulation. So if you're looking for a way to transform your health and to increase your lifespan, you're in the right place. Hit play now and let's get going. And don't forget to listen to the end for key takeaways and a special offer for being a wonderful listener of this podcast. Welcome, everyone, to the Midlife Reinvention Podcast, a podcast for women in transitions in their career and life. I interview incredible women for this podcast who share their stories of reinvention and who will give you their advice on how to overcome the obstacles in your way to reach your visions for yourself in your next stage of life. This week, I am super excited to have on the show again, and this is the second time because the first time was so awesome, I had to have her on again, Anissa Buckley. Anissa is a former Fortune 500 marketer turned wellness entrepreneur. Her focus is on hormone decline and improving the health span for women, including using lifestyle and supplementation to help reduce and even reverse the impact of aging. She also took 4 years to focus on extreme adventures around the world and has been a former White House wellness consultant. She's been featured in the Wall Street Journal, AARP, and more. So nice to have you on again. As I know it's been a little while since our first episode, but you've been doing so many things since then. And just wanted to find out what they are and how are you doing today?
I am doing great, Kavita. Thank you for having me. I always love being here.
Yes.
Such an inspiration yourself. So that's you're leading others as you've already carved the path. I love it.
Oh, thank you so much. And we've been in contact for a few years now. So I wanted to share a bit of it, I guess, an unconventional path that you've had in your life and midlife reinvention. You've had many reinventions in your life, but it seems like all the paths always kind of led to this wellness path. And as I mentioned in the introduction, helping people really feel better and live healthier lives. So perhaps you could, tell us briefly about your journey and the various stages and what led you to doing what you are doing now.
Yeah. It's funny. I have this theme admiration for you in this regard, in that I, like you, started out with a bunch of big Fortune 500 companies, including P&G, Sprint, Reebok. But I was not fulfilled with what I was doing. And I was young. I mean, we all are in our 20s and 30s. You're sort of learning what you're good at. There were some incredible skills I picked up by being in those positions. So leading nationwide campaigns and the attention to detail and carrying that forward at about mid-30s, 37 years old, I started my first company, which is a nutrition database that scored claims for products in grocery stores. That was completely driven out of my passion. I was very involved myself with my own personal nutrition. I wasn't feeling healthy. And a lot of it I know now, looking back, was stress. I was under a tremendous amount of pressure, probably self-imposed mostly. But I wanted to be the best and wanted to do the most I could do for these different jobs. And I realized I was kind of slowly killing myself. And so that started my quest for better wellness myself, which is what led to that nutrition database. Fast forward, I spent a good 10 years in that business working with large retailers across the country, helping put better grocery shopping standards in place for people. And out of that, really moved into more of a fitness realm and opened my first studio that had both fitness and nutrition as well. So we had fresh 500-calorie meals because I recognized it isn't one or the other. And I think that there's a misperception, although I think that that's being cleared up these days in the world. But I do think that people think, well, I can out-exercise my cheeseburger, or on the flip side, if I don't eat anything, I'm going to be healthy. And you really need the complement. You need them both together to truly achieve your best health. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But anyway, coming out of that fitness studio, one of my big takeaways there was we had organized a group of people to go participate in a race. And we trained together for 6 months. And what I saw coming out of that was the motivation to show up for the class and do the workout, push yourself even harder. And so that sort of stuck in the back of my mind. And that's actually parlaying into what I'm doing now. But that idea that we're better together than just alone, singularly going out for a run or a bike ride. And nothing's wrong with that either. I do solo things myself, but I find myself, I'm more effective, I'm more motivated, and I perform better when I've got others around me, and research supports that as well. So I'll keep moving forward. After that, I spent about 4 years with a former pro cyclist, traveling the world. So doing Ironmanning, doing extreme summiting, doing a lot of adventure and really figuring out what I was capable of, because I had never done anything like that before. And he was certainly instrumental in pushing me, but I had the drive to kind of really see what it was that I could do. And it seemed to interestingly coincide with menopause for me. And so I was kind of in the middle of going through that and realizing, like everything we hear, which is your body declines, going to be the worst period of your life, you're going to feel horrible. I felt the best I'd ever felt. And I really started delving into that. And so after that period of life of all the travel, I came back and I started a company focused on menopause. And I worked with physicians, dietitians, trainers, and I have some of those credentials myself, but we sort of basically put together this program based on science that helps identify what happens with hormone decline and what you can do to actually mitigate a lot of those effects. So we'll stop there. I mean, we can fast forward into what I'm doing now. It's all related. We've just really taken that extra leap into longevity, and I'll probably talk about that in a minute. But that's kind of my background and how it all kind of flowed together. And as you know, it doesn't always flow. It just kind of moves forward.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's puzzle pieces almost, or like you pick up one thing as you go along, and then that thing really intrigues you or gives you that energy to delve into it a little bit more. And it's like a path along the way, and it kind of opens up in front of you. And that's what I can hear from your amazing experiences, like understanding that it's not just fitness or nutrition, it's both, that motivation to work together in a group and perform better. So that's all kind of, and then the science-based basis behind menopause. So that's fantastic. It's so motivating to hear that. And you did mention that you were in better shape you felt when you turned 50. And that's not how normal, many people who turn 50 don't feel that way, right? And because with menopause, obviously, there's weight gain and all the rest, hormone imbalance. And so I guess the question is like, how did you do it? And what are some, I know that it's a lot, but what may be some of the key things that you would recommend women post 45,
Yeah.
to ensure that this stage of life doesn't stop them rather instead motivate them to move forward? Hi, my friend. Kavita here. Do you often feel blocked from moving forward? We all feel that way at times. These are referred to as energy blocks. I've created a short, actionable PDF guide to help you release your negative energy blocks. Click the link in the description to download it now for free. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting time in our era here of understanding women's health more. We're seeing more funding going into that. We're seeing more women take the lead in starting companies around identifying exactly how we can help improve this aging process. And what's been, I think, so neat about that is we are finally acknowledging that women are different, that what works for a man does not work for a woman as she ages. And the sort of most obvious one is men are great at intermittent fasting. It works for them. They drop weight, they get healthier. Women in general, it does not work the same for. So especially women in the menopausal years, intermittent fasting, well, had a lot of conversations with women who swear by it, claim it's the best thing ever. In the long haul, we do not find it to be a method that's going to actually get you to your best health. And so where I would go with that is you asked me for a couple of ideas on what really does work. One is preserving your muscle mass. And so that's where the idea of intermittent fasting can really fall short, because you may lose the pound, but you're also losing the muscle. And muscle is becoming one of those key indicators of health going forward. And you'll hear this on a Peter Attia podcast or Tony Robbins with his life course focus on longevity. Strength is critically important. And women tend to lose bone mass faster than men, and we lose muscle mass faster than men. And it's much harder for us to build, especially after menopause. So a couple key things are, number one, having protein in your diet all day long. And I do talk with women all the time who are fantastic. Everybody's like great about learning, but when we all start at this baseline, I think there's this big wake-up call of not getting as much as we think we are. Right. So generally 30% of your calories should come from protein. So I would just sort of put that one on the block. And for the majority of us, that means at least 100 grams a day. So you want to be thinking every single meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, roughly 30 grams. Okay. The second thing is strength training and exercise. In terms of why I was in such great shape at 50, I was doing a lot of it. And I was doing more than the average person is ever going to do. And I will fully admit that. But I have scaled back massively in the past year because I did have an accident with my bike in a car last year. I hit a car, and I have not been able to do a lot of what I do yet. I believe I've been able to maintain my health and my physical fitness level surprisingly even to me, because I'm doing a lot less than I was ever doing before, but yet I'm doing it smarter. So I'm sticking with the strength training as best I can. And I do get the high intensity training, which is something we talk about a lot with women as they age. It's more about getting heart rate up than it is about these long, low plod of endurance. So those are two big things I was doing, I think, during that period when I was feeling so good. So watching the protein, making sure I'm getting the protein, and then also doing strength training and high intensity as well, getting the heart rate up.
Yeah. Those are great tips. In fact, I've started more and more focusing on both of those, and I feel so much better. The 30 grams of protein a meal, and it seems hard, but when you really kind of focus on it, it's really doable. And it just makes you, because it also makes you feel full, right? It's just such satiety, right? And then the strength training. And I think there's a fallacy with respect to women going, I have to go to the gym for an hour, and I have to go on the treadmill, and I have to do this, and then, I don't have the time. So all the excuses come in, right? Whereas even if you do like 15, 20 minutes of good, heavy strength training, I don't know if that's what you recommend, but I think that, and plus, And maybe even like, adding in more steps, walking, things like that. So those are great. And I think if we can add them into our daily life routine and not make it such a barrier.
I
So
think
I think,
accepting it, like accepting that if you want to feel better and age better, it's just like brushing your teeth. I
right.
think that way. It's not an
Hmm.
option. It's something
Hmm.
I have to do. And so it's really making it a discipline in your life instead of thinking it as a
Have to do.
and I think there's a lot of women that think, well, I don't have time today. Okay, well, you are going to go and have your glass of wine tonight, right? So, you know, you got to balance that
Right.
out. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself in trouble. And I think a lot of us are finding now blood sugar levels are going up, which they naturally will in menopause. Cholesterol levels are going up. Unfortunately, all the indicators are moving in the wrong direction because they are naturally going to do that unless we find a way to counter.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about, is getting the heart rate up and doing the strength training. Those are two big things that will help to counteract it. So just start putting that on your list like 3 times. You don't have to do it every day, but if you do it every day, to your point, you can do shorter spurts. I call them supersets of just 2 different exercises. So if it's your leg day, maybe you want to do step ups and you start with no weight on maybe a 12-inch step, and you start doing step ups. And then when you're done with your first set, you maybe are going to do some simple squats, some body weight squats, and then go back to the step ups and back to the squats. So do 3 sets and maybe work up to 5 sets, but you could superset something like that and get a great workout in literally 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't have to be this overwhelming, oh my gosh, I'm in the gym for 6 days.
Yeah. Because then that whole mindset piece comes in that I can't, and I'm all the excuses in the world. So I love that. I think it's so important. So Anissa, you have a science-based program. You mentioned it when you were talking earlier, and that is to help women through menopause and aging, and it's called Be Untethered. So tell us, please, about the program. And in some recent videos I've seen that you've recently posted, you do also include weight loss drugs, such as semaglutide. So tell me about the program and what is so special about these drugs and why do you recommend them, even though I think I know there's a lot of controversy around them
There is.
in the general public. So that's probably a lot of questions in one, but maybe.
No, I think that's pretty simple. Thank you. So our program has evolved. So it was a menopause focused program, but I like to think of it now as longevity because I've had a lot of women sort of come to me in those postmenopausal years and acknowledge that it really just isn't about just menopause. It's really everything for the next 30 years after. How can we age better? So we've really evolved it into that. And we do actually start with an assumption that, we don't start with an assumption, but most women coming to us are looking to lose weight. That is the number one complaint that I hear is, I can't seem to get this weight off. I put it on over X period of time. What can I do? And so that is the reason I actually do love semaglutide. We use it as a jumpstart, honestly. So I'm never assuming that somebody is going to be on a weight loss drug for life, although there are those cases, but more so, it provides that initial shock to your system where your brain, which is in the American world, used to looking for food all day. We kind of get in this cycle of, oh, well, I need a break. I'm going to have a snack. And so what this does is it really shuts that down by working with ghrelin and leptin, your two appetite hormones. What I love about that is during that period of time, then we start working on your nutrition and your fitness, primarily nutrition to start with. So as we just talked about, it's about getting 30% of calories from protein. It's about getting 40% from carbs, but front loading your day so that 70% of calories are before dinner. So we start working on that as you're on the semaglutide, which makes it easier because your brain isn't constantly screaming for food. You're not starving. So it helps to kind of calm that whole craving piece that a lot of us have. So I love it for that reason, because we've had a lot of success with women losing literally 40, 50 pounds starting down this road. Now, once you've sort of made your path and you've lost a lot of the weight, I love to think about people weaning off of that and then really sticking with the lifestyle plan and then weight forward exercising as well. But we've had a number of women who literally were on semaglutide, lost a good amount of weight, 30, 40 pounds, and have been off it for at least 6 months and have not gained weight back. So as much as I know the media focuses on the negativity sometimes, the reality is if you're learning the right lifestyle changes, you will not gain the weight back. And again, I do also believe there's a little bit of rewiring that happens in your brain during that period. Your stomach and your digestive system doesn't crave or need as much food. Your brain is not constantly looking for food because you're learning a different behavior over that period. So that's the reason I'm going off on a tangent, but that's the reason.
No, that's great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really has been very helpful. I've seen a lot of women who've struggled with weight for many, many years have success losing weight, and then also
Yeah. I was going to ask you, how long does the person have to stay on it? I mean, I know I sold the drug, so I was just saying how for the weight, and it's great that you mentioned that they can wean off it, because I think that there's a perception that you have to be on it for life, and I guess it depends on how much weight you have to lose in the first place. But but if you incorporate that lifestyle plus that, and it becomes part of your, I guess, psyche, then you can wean off. So that's really great. And so is that for everybody, or is it just for people who, like, the people who start your program? Is it an option, or is that?
Certainly it's an option.
Yeah.
We also, I will probably get into this, but we have other programs where people are training with us for other reasons. But yeah, so I do generally work with midlife women on strength training as well. That's a big piece of what we do, because generally there's not a lot of history with women our age in strength training. And I think it's hard to come in if you've never done it before and know what to do and know how to do the movements right. So we work on that. And then getting over a lot of the misperceptions and the intimidation factor of going into a gym. If you're going to go to a gym, which you really have to, but if you hit a certain level, you kind of get to the point where you can't really have weights all over your house. I think it depends on what your goals are. I have seen women really start from nothing and get so motivated and excited about what they can do. I mean, I have a client right now who has started doing pull-ups, or started probably 6 months ago. And she loves how her arms are shaping up and the strength that she's gaining. And so she is going to a gym because there's machines there and there's ways to do it that's more assisted. So you're basically improving your strength as you go, but you're not just starting from a literal dead hang into a pull-up. That's really hard to do. So, it's all about progress and seeing that and gaining your own strength and watching your body transform, which it will.
Amazing.
So we do that.
That's great. That's great. So, Anissa, you had mentioned that your company now has transitioned to longevity, and I know that there's so much talk about longevity in the media and it's wonderful. And so that includes physical, emotional, as well as mental aspects. And so you're also doing adventure challenges and retreats and trips. And with this community that you mentioned earlier, because working together is better for performance. So why, in terms of longevity in particular, why is it so important to have all three, like the emotional, physical, mental, and aspect, to improve your longevity?
Yeah. Well, they do really all have an impact on our overall health. And I think it's not brand new information. So Dan Buettner from the Blue Zones has been studying societies around the world for years and has come up with almost a template of what we need to do. And within that, he has all of the pieces here that I'll talk about and that I know are involved in a lot of other longevity programs. I think we know the physical stuff, right? That's pretty obvious that you need to work on your cardiovascular health. You need to work on your strength. And our goal here, I have a workshop coming in September where we will actually do evaluations on these three pieces of your life and actually help you create a plan so that you are obviously assessing and then working on improving these areas. So moving into, I'll talk about the emotional health for a second. You are probably or may not be aware that the Surgeon General has basically said loneliness and social isolation has the impact on your body of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So if you think about that, right? I mean, all of us would think, oh my gosh, well, I would never smoke. Well, you are lonely. And not that that's your fault necessarily, but if you are, and you can feel lonely with people all around you. This is not about you being literally socially isolated, which is being by yourself. But if you're lonely,
connection, right? connected. If you're not connected, yeah.
What can you do about that? And so that's number one. There's a test. UCLA actually has something called the loneliness test. And there's another one as well. You can kind of look and sort of tick through the questions yourself and think, okay, does this fit me? And there's a social stigma with that, of course, right? There's people with, oh, I'm not lonely and I've got a ton of friends. But if you're really honest with yourself, it's very common. 61% of people in a Cigna survey recently came out and said that they feel lonely. So it's a very, very big issue in our society. I don't think that's a shocker. I mean, it's the whole FOMO on social media. It's been isolated with COVID for a couple of years. All of that has had detrimental effects on our emotional health. And so that's important because we find as time goes on, that's a big factor in the elderly in terms of their will to survive is, do I have a reason and do I have connection with people? So that's one that we take a look at and work on what you can do to actually resolve that. The other is mental health, and mental health, of course, things like brain function. And we know, again, with menopause, you can lose up to 30% of your brain function. So that's another piece that we have to focus on is memory and processing speed. Are you able to think through a problem like you used to? And so again, there's tests that you can take to kind of help you acknowledge where you are today. And that's really what this is about. Is it's not about what you did at 22 years old. It's about where are you today? And let's watch what's going on going forward so that you can assess and obviously counteract some of the effects of those things. So that's what we're doing is kind of working on building longevity plans and health and improving health spans for people going forward. And one of the pieces, of course, is challenge, which is part of the emotional aspect as well, is giving yourself, not the emotional, that's the mental aspect, all about sort of keeping your brain engaged. And there's so many ways. It's not just about the physical challenge, but it's about finding things in your life that are challenges, that are problems to solve.
Yeah.
Really using your brain to do that, keeping yourself engaged, which is going to help you in the long run.
Yeah. I love that. So speaking of like blue zones and ambient, one of the things, and I think we've talked about this in the past, is finding your purpose, right? Is your ikigai, which is the Japanese term for reason for being. And that is one of the things that he found in Okinawa, Japan, that the people there who lived the longest there. And one of the reasons that they lived by their ikigai, or a reason for being. So that's also, I think, if you know that, it's kind of all connected, right? The connection with people, the mental health, physical, emotional, and really finding your purpose. I think that is another big one. And so then I think you have some tips, 3 longevity tips that you might want to share. I don't know if you could share those.
I think there's a lot more than 3, but
yeah. Well, I think
it's not surprising. I mean, the number one in the world, I think, is exercise. They're now really calling that the longevity drug and realizing that there's no drug that will actually be able to do for you what exercise does. So that bodes well for me because I've always pretty heavily into exercise, but I know it's hard for people to get started. And so that's really where we need to spend some time really figuring out what it is you like to do, because if you don't like to do it, chances are you're not doing it. Right.
Yes.
So you got to kind of find that out. So exercise is number one. The number 2 thing I would say, I say nutrition, but it's really 2 pieces to that. It's the obvious of, yes, you need more protein in your diet, or let's not say more, let's just say, let's make sure you're getting 30% of calories roughly. And if it isn't 30, if it's 28, that's fine, but just make sure you're watching that. And then the other is sugar, of course, which can be detrimental on every aspect of life, from depression to mental issues to health, physical health. So watching that. And then I think the last piece really is the connection piece. And that's really more recently coming out in terms of being a quantifiable metric. It's never been a thing that's been easy to measure, but I think we're trying to make that easier to measure. And I think that's what's important, is now you can get a handle on where you fit on that scale. And can you move down the scale a little, or up the scale, I should say, a little bit better, so that you for sure are improving that connection point, and that's not a problem or a reason for your health-borne challenges in the future.
Yeah. I love that. So exercise, connection, and then the protein and sugar. On the connection piece, you are, I think part of the reason I think that you really are passionate about this is you're also doing these venture challenges and trips, and that's something that you've been working on. And tell us about those, and what are some of the upcoming trips you have, and how can people find more about these trips? And maybe I think there's different levels as well, and based on your
So we have a couple of different trips on the books right now. The first one is Kilimanjaro, which I would call a level 3, which is our highest. So that is in October. We start training in July. What I have found with these groups is we do all train together. So we meet weekly, online, of course. Everybody will have a workout plan, and we talk about things like gear, nutrition, hydration, what you need to be successful on your particular adventure. So Kilimanjaro is, I think it's October 6th to the 18th. We'll also be spending 3 days after we summit the mountain. We'll be spending 3 days on safari. So that's the fun
nice
part. Yeah.
Whereabouts?
Serengeti.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. And yeah, so we'll start that one in July for training. And then the next one is Patagonia. So we did just do Patagonia last month, 2 months ago. And the W Trek, which is about 55 miles and maybe about 15,000 feet of elevation over those 5 days. So it's not super easy, but it's not Kilimanjaro where you're going to 19,000 feet of altitude, which can have a real impact on your respiratory issues, system. Mm-hmm. So the Patagonia is in January, it's the 14th and 22nd, and we'll start training for that in October. And then the last one is our level 1, which is the Camino de Santiago. So we'll be doing that in April, the 23rd to the 30th. And that's really going to be more beginner level. Like if you have not done a multi-day walking trek, that's what this is about. So we do cover up to 15 miles on the hardest day. But this is really more of a spiritual and a sort of a mindset journey of church to church and town to town, and really immersing yourself in the culture of Spain, and just supposed to have fantastic culinary delights and good wines and all that kind of fun stuff. This is a little bit of a deviation from our typical sort of hardcore challenge, but this is really about connection, as I mentioned earlier, and about having women train ahead of time, get to know each other, get excited about accomplishing something. Because whether you're running a marathon or you're literally trekking for 5 days and you're walking 60 miles, it's still an endeavor. It's still an accomplishment, a big accomplishment, actually. And so we want to make sure that everyone feels like everyone's got that opportunity to kind of go out and undertake something. So that's kind of what we have on the books.
You've really intrigued me about I think that's
signed up and we haven't even yet. So
I've been that's been in the back of my mind of love it.
And we're doing the Francis version, which is the most popular. So I think it's gonna be a fantastic trip.
Okay. You said it, April 23rd. Just okay, I'll take them. And I was born in Kenya. Did you know that?
Oh
yeah.
How long were you?
Well, I was a baby when we came to Canada, but I was born there, so I still have family there, and we were there. Yeah, we did the Serengeti, and it was incredible. It's beautiful. Yeah, so those all sound amazing, and I think wonderful. And how many women do you have generally? Like, is it a big group?
So we'll do 16 on the Camino. We'll do 20 on Kilimanjaro, and unfortunately, we're limited to 10 on Patagonia.
Okay, nice.
So kind of a different mix. It depends on the accommodations on the Patagonia trek are very limited. These refugios they can't accommodate a ton of people. So we have to book really far in advance, and otherwise we're in tents. And I'm like, no, we don't. We're good with really kind of a bunker, honestly.
Right.
So in one of the rooms, I think we were all in the same room together, which you just kind of have to know if you're going to the wilderness to have these things happen, right? So
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds. You're obviously passionate about it, and I think having these adventure trips, both for the physical and mental and soul, in a way, is so great. And to have a guided tour and somebody who is professional and knows what they're doing is so important. So,
and I think we found a lot of women who were on the trips with us saying that they didn't have another friend who wanted to do this, and they really wanted to go out and try something like Patagonia. And what was so great is these women are now still friends. They're all connected. We're talking, I'm still part of the group. We're still talking about going and doing Yellowstone or something together here domestically. So there's a connection that you make when you spend something like that. You're out in a very challenging environment. You're vulnerable and you're spending 4 or 5 days together, more than that, probably 5 or 6 days together in a very, like I said, challenging environment. So
and you have to, it's a trust that develops it as well, right? It's a trust in each other and in your leader and that. So wonderful. You should come to Canada. You should do the Rockies.
So many great places. Nope. Yeah. I'm actually going to Colorado. I'm coming up your way next week. I'm going to Pikes Peak.
Oh, nice. Wonderful. Well, that's amazing. So where can you just tell us your website and how we can find out, people can find out more about all these trips and what you do and your progress?
Yes, thank you. So the website is be-untethered.com. And if you go under adventures and events, that's where you will find the trips. So all the information is there and people can sign up. We would love to have everybody just go and press the button and sign up for Kilimanjaro or Donia or Camino's not quite there yet, but it will be probably by the time this goes live. So.
Right. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing that and for all you do for women and just to improve their health and their longevity. And I love how all the pieces in your puzzle of life have come to this culmination. And it's really very, very motivating. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
And maybe we'll see you in one of the trips.
I'd love that.
You take care. You're welcome. I trust you enjoyed this inspiring episode with Anissa Buckley, and it provided you with some practical insights on how you can ensure a longer and more fulfilled life moving forward. If you have a holistic approach to health and wellness, this is entirely possible. Her key takeaways are these. Number 1, have a holistic health approach. The combination of proper fitness and nutrition is crucial. Combine strength training, high-intensity workouts, and adequate protein intake to help maintain your muscle mass and overall health. Number 2, ensure your emotional and social well-being by building strong social support, which will increase your motivation and help you stick to your health routines. And number 3, adapt to your hormonal changes through lifestyle changes, and if needed, medical and drug interventions. This approach will help you manage the physical and emotional challenges of menopause. To that end, you can check out Anissa's upcoming travel adventures on her website, beuntethered.com, and the link is in the show notes as well, so check it out. And I'm so appreciative of you being here, and it's for your own personal growth. And if you need guidance on your own particular journey, please do book a free call with me to discuss. You can email me today at kavita@itsmytimenowcoaching.com. That's KAVITA @itsmytimenowcoaching.com. And let's just have a conversation. There's no obligation, just a conversation on what you may be going through right now. And in the meantime, if you're feeling stuck in your career or life right now and you just don't know why or how to get out of this stagnation that you're feeling, take my short career and life fulfillment quiz right now. It takes less than a minute to complete, my friend, but it will follow with valuable information on what blocks you may be facing to really achieve what you want for yourself moving forward. You can go to the show notes right now and take the career and life fulfillment quiz right now. Just take 1 minute, and it's the first step in really transforming your life from feeling stuck and overwhelmed to fulfilled and excited to what your future holds for you. Thank you again, my friend, and stay well, and I'll see you in the next episode.